need to, oh.
Let's get the defendant's help, please.
Oh, wait, this is not mine. This is not mine. This is taking up my file.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, we're number 3.
I certify. Here, I can. Well, all right, I'll just. I didn't know if you wanted me to put them.
Oh, wait, no, you're fine. Sometimes they put the, they you should have my class step up. Step up.
Wait a minute. Is Ron here or Craig Daly? Mr. Daly,
Yes.
are you attorney for Richard? Or are you? Are you attorney for Mr. Richard?
Witcher.
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 With it up and down.
Witcher. Where's Mr.
Yeah.
Ross here?
What's your, what's your time receiving with the statements?
All right, on file 21
Oh,
force.
Just,
I'm sorry.
Judge, I need to mark the exhibits, please.
I beg your pardon?
Can I mark the exhibits? You just gave me a,
Oh, are you marking exhibits?
Yes,
Okay,
just
let me know
gave-
when you're done.
okay.
Prior, certification of prior conviction.
Okay, Judge, I'm ready.
All right. Again, on this file 1470119, People versus Johnson, Richardson, and Wisher. There's a preliminary, well, appearances, please.
Karen Goldfarb, Your Honor, appearing on behalf of the people and with Officer Matt from Homicide.
And good afternoon, Maria Manarino on behalf of Mr. Richard Johnson, who's present and seated in front of you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Susan Reed on behalf of Robert Richardson, who is seated in front of me.
You gotta allow
Harris, I was court appointed on this position.
Your Honor, good afternoon, Craig Daly on behalf of Mr. Witcher. I am the retained counsel for Mr. Witcher, and I was retained at 12:30 this afternoon, Judge. And therefore, I am moving to adjourn this matter.
Beg your pardon, you're doing what?
Moving to adjourn this matter, the exam.
The court notes that there was at least one previous adjournment on the part of everybody, because there were two defendants and apparently a third that had to be caught up.
Right.
So Mr. Witcher has had one exam adjournment already.
No, I
don't
think it was
so.
Richardson and Johnson had an exam, because.
The other two?
Yes, because Witcher was not in custody warrant, and they had to find him.
This would be Mr. Witcher's first request.
Could be, but I have the paperwork that says that Witcher has an adjournment.
Oh.
That's what it says right here.
I don't know why.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, I was present at the time of the first exam, Dave, and it was Miss Johnson and Mr. Richardson who were the only ones present. At the date and time set for the examination, is when we all learned that in the interim, Mr. Witcher had been picked up. And so when that was explained to the court, it was on the court's own motion that it was adjourned until Mr. Witcher's exam. Now, what may have happened, Judge, is that at the time of the arraignment of Mr. Witcher, it was set for a date that did not coincide for when it was adjourned.
That's what I was thinking, that we
There it
didn't
is.
even have
We
notice
did
of
have an
another day.
adjournment, but it was different from the one that.
Right, like they set a date at the arraignment, and nobody was even here probably.
Well, we need to have something clear here. The fact that someone's in this appointed counsel versus a retained lawyer is of no difference in the eyes of the court or in the eyes of the law. A lawyer's a lawyer. Now, in a perfect world, where someone has the ability to hire a lawyer of their choice, that's ideal, and it's encouraged. On the other hand, there's a great number of cases that speaks in terms of the fact that even though it might be the lawyer of choice, if it delays proceedings, there's no greater proceeding than a trial. If you use that, or if it occurs that the lawyer cannot take the date set, it is discouraged because there's an interest of justice that comes into play here. In this instance, while I have no problem with Mr. Daly filing a substitution, and that's really what this is, it's not that you just get to file a retained appearance in front of a different lawyer. It's a substitution. And the court has a voice in it. You're welcome to substitute if you can accept the preliminary examination as set today, where I have multiple defendants. I have presumably more than one witness. I don't know for sure.
Yes, there's a number of witnesses. There's a medical examiner
I
with you
have a
too.
report that you may or may not have seen, Mr. Daly, on your client that indicates that he is, there was an interview with a Miss Hicks. Your client is in very poor physical health. He has COPD, asthma, gout. He also has a heart condition. He had, albeit good mental health, but an extensive history of substance abuse. All by way of saying you can see that he's on oxygen here. There's nothing that would suggest that the next time I put this over, there won't be a medical issue. There's nothing to suggest that next time somebody gets another lawyer and they substitute. And the third time or fourth time or fifth time, somebody gets another lawyer. And you could delay successfully and thwart the preliminary examination for an extended period of time. And if you think anybody listening to me thinks I'm exaggerating that, I will show you files in the 36th District Court that are 2 years old at the examination stage, where one lawyer shows up, the other one doesn't show. One lawyer substitutes, and the other one then gets another lawyer. And round and around and round we go. So what I'm going to do, since this is merely a probable cause proceeding, is I will deny the adjournment, but Mr. Harris will be here, you'll be here, if you Mr. Witcher is twice blessed by having two lawyers instead of just one.
Well, I appreciate your concerns about moving the case forward but Mr. Witcher is asserting his right to his own lawyer, notwithstanding your concerns, Judge, and I would renew my motion for an adjournment.
And as I indicated, that would be denied, but let's proceed. You've got a chair there? Yes, looks like you do. For yourself, Mr. Daly? I do. Good.
Your Honor, I would request that any witnesses or potential witnesses be sequestered.
And that was why I was standing as well.
Okay, so both sides will kind of be conscious of who that might be, and we'll use your best judgment as to who should be sufficient. Okay, please call your first witness.
Yeah, Your Honor, at this time, I would be moving to enter as exhibits people's proposed exhibit number 4, which is the certification of the Recorder's Court for the prior conviction of Robert Richardson. I would move for admission of a certified copy of prior conviction from the Oakland County Circuit Court on exhibit number 5 for Harvey Witcher, and move for admission of number 6, which is a certified copy of prior conviction for Patricia Johnson. Those are people's proposed exhibits 4, 5, and 6, and I'm moving for their admission at this time.
Objections?
None on behalf of Ms. Johnson.
None on behalf of Mr. Richardson.
And for the purpose of this examination, not on behalf of Mr. Richard.
Thank you, they'll be received.
Thank you. And Your Honor, at this time, I'd be calling Dr. Nijawji, I believe. It's Nijwaji.
Thank you. I think that may be, you're the doctor?
Yes.
Come on up, please, doctor. Just kind of come around. Give your name to my court reporter. Who's the lady over the way from the house over there, please?
And whilst
Okay. And doctor, if you'll raise your right hand, solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth.
Yes.
Make yourself comfortable, then we'll have you swing the microphone. And then you were gonna say something, Ms. Goldberg.
yes, I will counsel stipulate to the identification of the child at the Wayne County Medical Examiner on or about January 18, 2014 as Jamel, Jamel Witcher.
On behalf of Ms. Johnson, I will so
Stipulate to identification.
I will stipulate, Your Honor, for purposes of the preliminary examination.
Yes, sir, for the examiner, Mr. Richard.
Thank you. Please.
Thank you. Doctor, can you state your name for the record?
Dr. Chantel Jawaji.
Okay, and Doctor, how are you employed at this time?
I'm employed by University of Michigan and Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office.
And are you're assigned to the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office as part of your duties with the University of Michigan, is that right?
Yes.
All right. And what are your duties at the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office?
We perform autopsy on forensic pathology cases.
In order to become a medical examiner, you have to have quite a bit of education, isn't that true?
Yes, true.
And you have to be a medical doctor.
Yes.
Are you a medical doctor?
Yes, I am.
Are you licensed to practice medicine in the state of Michigan?
Yes, I am.
All right. How long have you been so licensed?
I had been licensed since 2012.
Okay. And just practice in the state of Michigan?
Yes.
All right. Are you currently undergoing training in forensic pathology, or have you completed your training?
I've completed my training.
When did you complete your training in forensic pathology?
I completed my training in Miami-Dade, Florida, medical examiner's facility, and that was in 2011.
All right. And prior to that, did you have also training in anatomical pathology?
Yes, I did.
Where was that training, please?
I did my training in New York City, and first at St. Vincent's Hospital, and then at St. Luke's Hospital, affiliated with Columbia University.
All right. And when did you complete your medical degree?
Medical degree was completed at Wayne State University, and that was in 2005.
And since, I don't know, I can't remember, did I ask you how long you've been with the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office?
It's since 2012,
All right, since when in 2012?
August 2012.
All right. Your Honor, at this time, for exam purposes, I'd offer Dr. Najibulawji is an expert in the area of anatomical and forensic pathology, and I yield the word to you.
Any blood here?
Not on behalf of Ms. Johnson.
None on behalf of Mr. Richardson?
No, sir, no, yeah, all right.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you. Doctor, as part of your duties with the Wayne County Medical Examiner, did you have an opportunity on or about January 18, 2014, to perform a postmortem or autopsy examination on a 4-year-old child known to you as Jamal, Jamel Witcher?
Yes, I did.
And were you able to determine the manner of the death of Jamal Witcher?
Yes,
What was it?
homicide.
Were you able to determine the cause of his death?
Yes,
What was the cause?
gunshot wound of the chest.
And why did you determine the manner of death to be homicide as
Well,
a medical examiner?
in the medical examiner system, manner of death is used for public health statistics, so it's not a legal definition. So it's described as just someone who caused the injury. And in this situation, another person caused the injury to Jamal.
And you indicated it was a gunshot wound, is that right?
Yes.
Were you able to how big was Jamal Witcher?
He was actually 3 foot 5 inches, 39 pounds.
All right. And where did he suffer the gunshot wound?
It was to his left chest.
And were you able to determine the wound track? Well, what is meant by wound track, first of all?
Wound track is as a result of the gunshot wound perforating through a person's body. And what that leaves behind is an actual tract of the bullet.
Okay. And can you determine if the bullet went upward, downward, or something else when you examine a body and a gunshot wound?
Yes. In the case of Jamal, the gunshot wound direction was front to back, left to right, and actually upward.
Upward. So that would mean that somebody who was below him in some way put the bullet through his 3 foot and 6 inch body. Is that right?
Yes, either that or the gun was at a level that was below him. Yes.
Okay. But it was certainly below him.
Yes.
And can you tell if he was standing, sitting at the time that someone put the bullet through him and upward?
That I cannot say.
Okay. Was there any physical abnormalities with Jamal that could have contributed to his death other than the gunshot wound through his chest?
No.
I have nothing further, Your Honor, this time. Oh, you know what? One more question. Was there any evidence of close range fire?
There was no evidence of close range fire on the skin of Jamal. However, I did not have the clothing to assess.
And would the clothing, the kind of clothing he was in make a difference as to whether or not there was evidence of close range fire on his actual skin?
That's true.
Okay, and you don't know because you don't, how close of range it was. You only know that there was no evidence on his skin. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Van Reno.
Thank you. Just a, did you have something else? Oh, I'm sorry. Just a couple of questions. You said that there was no, or the prosecutor asked you, was there any evidence of close range fire? What does that mean to you? What's close range?
Close range fire is where you have evidence on the skin, or you might have soot on the skin, a muzzle impression, which means just the muzzle of the gun is indented around this gunshot wound. Soot is something that is left behind by the emanation of gases along with the bullet itself. That might be on the skin, but also might be on the clothing.
Okay. So on the skin, you found no evidence.
No, I did not.
And so does that tell you that what distance the gun must have been from him?
It gives me an indication in terms of the distance, but in this case, it could not be assessed because it was not a associated with the gunshot wound.
Okay, so you couldn't tell whether the gun was any set of, inches or feet away from him?
Correct. That's why it was termed indeterminate range.
Okay. It could have been as close as, how close, if you could tell?
It could have been very close, within a foot.
Okay, and it could have been any number of feet away?
True.
Okay. All right, so, and you say that the wound track, first of all, you said you couldn't tell whether he was standing, sitting, laying, what position he was in when he was shot. Is that fair?
That's true.
You don't know if he was standing, sitting on the bed, what position?
True.
Okay. But you do know, you said that the wound was front to back, which meant he was shot from the front,
True.
and the bullet actually traveled through his body.
Yes.
And in the direction it traveled through his body was left to right.
Yes.
Could you tell at what degree or what angle left to right?
At what angle, I do not know. I know in terms of the injuries that the bullet created within his body.
Okay, well, for example, you could tell that the wound track was upward,
Yes.
and you could determine that because the wound in the front was at a different level than the exit wound,
True. The
Okay.
upward trajectory was about an inch.
about 1 inch. So the entry was at about well, you tell me.
13 inches
Okay.
below the head,
Okay,
top of the head.
the entry wound was 13
Yes.
inches, and the exit wound was,
12.
and so it went from a 13 to 12. That, to me, signifies down.
13 being below the head.
Okay, so 13 in the front, 12 in the back.
Yes.
And forgive me, but that indicates to me a downward trajectory.
Actually upward, because I'm assessing the gunshot wound pattern in a standard anatomic position. So the person, if a clarification diagram and a forensic pathologist would make.
Are you looking at, you're talking about the usual charts?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So the decedent would be in a standard anatomic position, which means they would be standing front first with their arms or their arms to the side and their palms open. So that is what I'm using.
Okay, and forgive me, but I'm just not understanding how if it's 13 in the front and 12 in the back, why that's not a,
Well, in order to go from 13,
To
from
12
below
is
the
up.
from below the head, and to go from 12, you have to go up.
gotcha, thank you.
Yes.
All right, so, and I'm sorry, and then the other question then, the left to right.
Yes.
How do you determine left to right?
Left to right is actually the entrance room was to his left chest.
Okay.
And the exit room was to the right side of his back.
Okay, and, again, we used 13 and 12 last time. Do you use those same measurements to do?
I do use measurements. The measurement from the anterior chest was about 1 3/4 inches from the anterior midline. So we go from the midline of the body to where the gunshot wound was.
Okay, and I'm sorry, and that deviation was what?
About 1 3/4 inches.
Okay, so 1 inch, and then one from top to bottom, and then 1 3/4 side
From
to
the
side.
midline,
Okay.
yes.
Nothing further, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Reed?
Thank you, Your Honor. Am I correct in looking at this report that there was no bullets recovered, no fragments recovered of any kind?
No, this was a perforating gunshot wound, which means the bullet traveled completely through his body.
And in performing the autopsy, did you find any fragments of fiber or anything that might have been pulled through the wound track clothing or anything of that nature?
No, I did not.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Any questions, Mr. Daly?
Judge, my position is the same. I'm not prepared to proceed with proceedings, and I would renew my motion.
Oh. Do you have any questions?
Judge, I've already.
Okay, so apparently you're not interested in asking any questions, that's fine.
It's not that I'm not
Thank you, Doctor.
interested,
You may
I'm not
step down.
prepared.
Your
Thank
Honor,
you.
Wait, can I just
Okay.
follow up? Doctor, you mentioned the diagram. I'm going to show you what's marked as People's Proposed Exhibit Number 1, are you familiar with that document?
Please go ahead.
Yes, I am.
Is that your report and a diagram attached?
Yes, it is.
And there's also a toxicology report.
True.
All right, and just for clarification, toxicology was non-contributory, didn't give you any additional information,
No.
correct? All right. Your Honor, I'm moving for admission of People's Proposed Exhibit Number 1, which is the autopsy report on toxicology.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
No, Judge, I'm sorry.
No objection to the exam.
Be received. Thanks, Doctor. I guess we're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. And the doctor will be excused.
No objection.
Thank you very
No
much.
objection.
Adrian Thompson. Good morning. What? I don't have to.
Miss, if you'll come around, miss, if you'll come around and tell the lady in the,
It's in the investigator's report, her name, but they have to.
wait, hold on just a second, I want to swear you in first, okay? So if you'll raise your right hand. Solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth. Okay, great. Now you can get yourself comfortable.
Oh, this.
Yes, well, you got both going on at the same time. One's for the reporter and one's for the courtroom. So that one that's on the stand is for the courtroom, so if you'll bring that one close to you also, and I hopefully won't create a cross feed problem, but I need to hear you, okay? Thank you very much. Please.
Can you please tell me your name?
Adrian Tubbs,
Can you spell your first name?
Adrian
And what about your last name?
Tubbs.
Miss Tubbs, you were the mom of Jamel Witcher, correct?
Yes,
And how old was Jamel?
4.
Are you familiar with the address of 7125 Tuxedo
Yes,
in the city of Detroit?
yes.
All right. How are you familiar with that address? How do you know that address? What do you know? What makes you know that address itself?
Because that's where my grandparents and everybody else live.
Okay, that's where whose grandparents live?
Jamel,
And who are Jamel's grandparents?
Patricia Johnson Richardson, and Harvey Richard.
Okay. Do you see Patricia Johnson and Richardson and Harvey Witcher here today?
Yes,
Where do you see them?
right here.
All right. Identifying for the record, Ms. Johnson and Ms. Witcher. There's 2 males, correct, sitting at the table?
Yes.
Is Mr. Witcher the one who's closest to you or further away from you?
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes. Is Mr. Witcher the one who's closer to you or further away from you?
Further away.
All right. Identifying for the record, Mr. Witcher, Your Honor.
Record will so report.
The other male who's there, do you know him?
Yes,
What's his name?
Robert Richards. Richardson.
And how do you know him?
He's Patricia's husband.
Right. So and do you know where he lived on January 16th, 2014?
Yes.
Where?
Tuxedo.
Do you know where Miss Johnson lived on January 16th, 2014?
Yes.
Where?
Tuxedo.
And do you know where Mr. Harvey Witcher lived on January 16th, 2014?
Yes.
Where?
Tuxedo.
All right. How was your son also there on January 16th, 2014?
From my knowledge, yes.
Why do you believe that your son was there that day?
Because when I got dropped off, see, I'm not really understanding because I didn't actually drop him off there.
Okay. What'd you do? Just tell
I
me.
got dropped off at work, and him and his grandma went back, I guess.
You got dropped off by work by who?
Patricia.
And was Jamel with you?
Yes.
And that, I'm talking about your little boy now.
Yes.
All right, so his grandmother dropped you at work with Jamel in the car, is that right?
Yes.
And you left and went into work, right?
Yes.
And where'd you leave Jamel?
In the car.
With who?
Patricia.
And about what time would that have been?
Like around 2:30, 2:35.
In the afternoon?
Mm-hmm.
Did you work like a regular full-time job?
Yes.
Did you have a routine or practice of leaving Jamel with certain people at a certain location?
Yes.
Every day that you worked?
Yes.
Tell us what your routine and practice was of where you left Jamel routinely when you worked.
Normally, I'll go to work, and his grandma will pick him up from school, and he'll go to her house from there.
Okay, and where was her house?
Tuxedo.
Okay, and did you pick him up? Did you routinely pick him up at his grandmother's house?
Yes.
And who was routinely there when you would pick him up?
His grandma.
And who else?
Patricia, Robert, and Harvey.
All right. And if this tragedy didn't happen, what were you planning to do that day?
I would have picked him up from his grandma's house normally.
Okay, on Tuxedo.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Who was supposed to be watching him when he was at his grandma's house when you were at work?
I'd say all three of them. I mean, it's
Did they all three routinely watch your child while you worked?
yes.
And, Your Honor, I don't have anything else in this house.
Ms. Tubbs, you indicated that Ms. Johnson would, that it was your understanding that Ms. Johnson would normally pick up Jamal at school.
Yes.
And what time was that?
He got out of school at 2:45.
Okay. On the day that this happened, was it a school day?
Yes.
Was he at school?
No.
And prior to you getting dropped off at work, you were with Ms. Johnson?
No, I was at home.
With Jamal?
No, Jamel was at her home with her.
Okay. And how long he had been at her home?
He spent the night.
Okay. And, all right, let's back up. What's your relationship with Ms. Johnson?
No, that's my mother-in-law.
Your mother-in-law, right? She's not your mother. She is Jamal's father's mother?
Yes.
Okay. And you routinely, regularly had her babysitting for Jamal?
Yes.
And you were comfortable with that arrangement?
Yes.
How long had she been doing that?
Since the school year started.
Since the school year started. And when did the school year start? Was it, August or September?
September.
Okay. So at least for a number of months.
Yeah.
And everything was going according to your satisfaction.
Yes.
You are familiar with the home that she lived in?
Yes.
And do you know when Jamal was at the house, first of all, were there usually other children there?
Yes.
And who were the other children who were usually there?
Janila and Jermaine.
And who are they?
They're his little cousins, his cousins.
They were cousins of
Mhm.
Jamal's. And you knew them to frequently be there also?
Yes.
She would babysit for them also?
Yes.
Okay. And were you ever at the house when Jamal and his cousins were there?
Yes.
When they were at the house, where would you generally see them? Would they play in the kitchen or in the living room? Where would they routinely hang out, if you know?
In the living room.
And in the living room, was there, is that where they had activities?
Yes.
And she being Miss Johnson, would normally pick Jamal up at school, and do you know what time that was?
2:45.
All right, and then you would pick him up when you got off work, and what time was that?
11:48.
So she would normally be with him during those hours?
Yes.
And was it usual or unusual for him to spend the night?
Sometimes he'll spend the night. It depends if I'm working late.
Okay. And do you know strike that. When you would go to pick up Jamal, would there be times that he would be sleeping?
Yes.
And when he would be sleeping, where would he sleep?
On a couch.
In the living room?
Mm-hmm.
The other children who were there, would you see occasions when they would also spend the night?
No, not really.
Okay. Do you know how many bedrooms are in the home?
Yes.
How many bedrooms are in the home?
2.
And are either of those bedrooms rooms that the children routinely played in?
I don't know.
You know that there are 2 bedrooms.
Yes.
Do you know whose bedrooms they are?
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Ms. Tubbs, Mr. Richardson, now he's not the grandfather, he was not the grandfather of Jamal, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So he wasn't related to Jamal at all?
No.
Had you ever asked Mr. Richardson to babysit your children, to babysit Jamal?
No.
How long had you known Mr. Richardson?
Couple years.
And during that time, had you ever left your child with Mr. Richardson?
No.
When Mrs. Johnson would pick up Jamal from school, was it your understanding that she would be babysitting with him?
Yes, but it's not uncommon for her to run an errand and leave him there with him.
Well, were you there when she would run the errands?
No.
But you yourself never left Jamal with Mr. Richardson?
No.
Now, you said that Jamal had spent the night before,
Yes.
and what time did your Miss Johnson take you to work?
2:35.
So Jamal hadn't gone to school that day.
No.
She came and picked you up and then dropped you off at work.
Yes,
And she was alone in the car with Jamal at that time.
yes.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Just a couple. Ms. Johnson, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Ms. Thompson, I'm sorry.
Tubbs.
Oh, Thomas, I'm sorry. Sorry about that, good afternoon. My question relates to the gentleman at the end, you know, is Mr. Witcher. Now, you didn't have any specific agreement with Mr. Witcher that he was gonna look after your son, correct?
No.
Okay. And you know that he is, he's also, got some illness. He's a
Yes.
sick man, right? Okay, that's all, thank you.
Ma'am, was there to the best of your knowledge, was there a functioning television in the living room of that house?
I don't know.
Do you know where the children would go to watch TV?
Normally they would watch TV in the living room, but from my understanding, the TV was broke.
Okay. Do you know where they were watching TV at when they couldn't watch in the living room?
I don't know.
You don't know? Where was the other television in the home?
In one of the bedrooms.
Whose bedroom?
One of the bedrooms that's in the hallway.
Well, I know they're off the hallway. Whose bedroom was the TV in?
I don't know whose bedroom that was. I don't go to the bedroom parts. I just go to the living rooms.
Okay. Do you know who shared bedrooms there?
Yes.
Who shared bedrooms there?
Harvey and Patricia shared a room, and then Robert had his own room.
Okay. So Robert,
Harvey and Patricia shared the bedroom, and Robert had his own room.
all right. That's it. Thank you, Your Honor.
Anything from?
Well, just so I'm clear, you don't know if on this date and time there was a TV in the living room?
No.
Whether it was working or not working?
From my understanding, it wasn't working.
From your understanding, but
Yeah.
you don't know?
But I don't know for myself.
Okay. From your own knowledge, you don't know what the situation was regarding the TV on that date?
That is correct.
Thank you, nothing further.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you.
No, my position is the same, Judge.
Okay.
Can I have a standing objection?
Yep.
Just to continue the motion. Thank you.
Anything further, Ms. Wood?
Nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mason.
It's going to be Officer Johanna Todd.
Can we take 2 seconds?
Yeah, I have no problem.
And A, while they put the tie, but you go.
There's
She's
a couple
about-
people that need to utilize various facilities, so if your patient officer will take about 2 or 3 minutes.
That's fine.
Anybody else, the fellows need to take a break or something.